Okay, these are the class examples for 7.1. You should work through these with me, not just copy down what's here, work through them with me. This is the problem, 2 sine squared t plus 3 sine t plus 1 equals 0. You take the problem and you're going to factor it. The factors of 2 are 2 and 1. So the factors of 2 sine squared would be 2 sine x and 1 sine x. 1's only factors are 1 and 1. And if you FOIL, first terms you get the 2 sine squared t. Outer terms you get 2 sine t. Inner terms 1 sine t. Combine for the 3. And 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, so we factored it, which is the reversing of FOILing, more or less. Sine t plus 1 equals 0, sine t equals 0, sine t would be negative 1/2. Subtract 1, divide by 2, move the 1 over. Okay, sine is negative in the third and fourth quadrants. Sine is 1/2 at 30 degrees, or pi over 6. That's the reference. So in the third quadrant, it's pi plus pi over 6. Pi is 6 over 6 plus 1 over 6, 7 over 6. The fourth quadrant would be 2 pi minus pi over 6. 2 pi is 12 over 6 minus 1 over 6 would be 11 over 6. And then for sine to be negative 1, y is negative 1. Y over r, in the unit circle, y is negative 1 at 3/2 pi. You can look at the unit circle too if you'd like to. So these are your three answers. 7 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6, and 3/2 pi. Okay, that's example 1. Example 2, it says to solve 2 sine squared equals 3 cosine. Okay, well, first of all, 2 sine squared t is 2 times 1 minus cosine squared. So I took this and replaced 2 sine squared with it. So this step is back up to here, so I brought the 3 cosine t with me. Distribute the 2, 1 times 2 and 2 times cosine squared. Move the 3 cosine t over and set it equal to 0. So negative cosine squared t minus 3 cosine t plus 2 is equal to 0. Divide through by a negative. 2 cosine squared t plus 3 cosine t minus 2 equals 0. The factors of 2 cosine squared. Okay, well, the only factors of 2 are 2 and 1, so you know this has got to be 2 cosine t and 1 cosine t. Now this 2 you could play with. If you put 2 here and 1 here, you're coming up with 2 and 2. We need 3 here, so I'm going to put a plus 2 here and a minus 1 here. See, 2 times 2 is 4. Minus 1 is the 3. So that's the kind of the reverse FOIL, or you could do the AC method and come up with it too. Split up your two factors and set them equal to 0. If cosine t is equal to 1/2, that's positive. So that's the first and fourth quadrants. Cosine is 1/2 at 60 degrees, or pi over 3. And that's first quadrant. The fourth quadrant would be 2 pi minus pi over 3. 2 pi is 6/3 minus 1/3 is 5/3. Over here, you move it over. Cosine t cannot equal negative 2. If you, let's pull up Desmos real quick so you can see what happens when you do it. I'm going to put in inverse cosine of negative 2 so you can see that. So if we go down, I'm playing with the recording instead of the... All right, so we want to do inverse cosine, and I think it was a negative 2. Negative 2. Notice it says it's undefined. So cosine values the function values are always between -1 and +1. So you would not have a solution. It's undefined. So these are the only two solutions that you have. That was example 2. Last but not least is example 3 for this little exercise. First, you need to change secant to 1 over cosine. So this becomes 1 over cosine equals 2 cosine. And then I multiplied both sides by cosine to get rid of the denominator. The cosines cancel, we get 1. And so over here we would get 2 cosine squared. So I don't like it that way, so I just flipped it and I made it 2 cosine squared equals 1. I divided by 2, so I'll get 1/2. I take the square root, and then when I've got the square, I have 2 roots, the plus and the minus. Well, the square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 2 is the square root of 2. If you rationalize it, you can multiply by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2, and you get the square root of 2 over 2. It's plus or minus. Okay, this should be screaming at you, 45 pi over 4, but plus or minus means that it's going to be in all 4 quadrants. You can use the unit circle, or you could use your triangles to come up with where does this actually happen at 45 degrees. So on the unit circle, it's whatever x is, because the r is 1, so it's the x value. Where is x, the square root of 2 over 2, or negative the square root of 2 over 2. So it's these 4 angles. Pi over 4, 3/4, 5/4, and 7/4. Those are your 4 answers there. Okay, these are some additional classroom examples that I hope you worked through with me and not just copied me. Thank you.